So this book review that I'm going to be doing is on the book called Ghost Camera. Now, it's not necessarily a well-known book, I don't think. It was released in July 29th of 2014. It's about 118 pages and it was written by Darcy Coates. I think that's the name. So what really makes me appreciate this book is that it was like scary. I read it in my room like late in the evening, and like I read it all at once and I was getting like chills and I was getting spooked. Like it was definitely one of those books that actually managed to scare me. Most horror books out there, they don't scare me. They'll have like a scary premise or a scary situation, but I don't find them to actually be that scary. So first off, it has a really nice premise, a really nice original idea in that a camera, like the one I'm looking at right now, is able to take pictures of ghosts. Like a woman is at a wedding and she climbs up on top of a lighthouse to get a good picture of the reception, and she finds this old camera up there. She takes a snapshot and she takes it home with her. And when the film develops, she sees people that aren't supposed to be there in there, and she realizes that there's ghosts. Like those are ghosts in the photo camera. And so that's the basic premise. And what I really liked about it was that after a while the ghosts like start to notice her back. And that's where the story really kind of takes off, is like it starts out pretty simply with, minimal ghost interaction and minimal terror, and it slowly starts to ramp it up until like it's full on fright fest, everything's going down, and it's like a nightmare for this main character. And I think the story was really well done. I mean, there's a lot of times that when it's just short story, I mean, like I said, this was 118 pages, that the story doesn't have time to develop, much less the characters, and it all feels kind of rushed. But this story felt complete. It felt succinct and whole. And by the time I got to the end of the story, I found it had a very good ending, one that makes a lot of sense to the actual storyline, and it's not like some cheesy resolution for how the characters get out of their plight or don't get out of their plight, but it wraps it up very well, and it leaves the story feeling complete, whole, and it doesn't like need a sequel or anything because it's done. And I really appreciated that for the story. Another thing that I really appreciated was the characters. I feel that the characters were part of what was able to make the horror do so well. In this, I found that the main character of Jenny, she's kind of a quieter character, almost like an introvert, and she's the one who originally finds the camera, and she is the one who gets like scared, but it's not like inconsolable, like can't be helped. It's just she's the one that is the target, so to speak, of the terror. And she's accompanied by her best friend Bree, who is an extrovert, like a really outgoing person, a really self-made woman who has her own flower shop and she's doing well. And when she learns of Jenny's plight, she asks to see the pictures, and then she kind of like pushes Jenny to actually like push the boundaries and to experiment and to discover more about what's going on. And when the terror starts to ramp up and it starts to build around and get like downright scary and creepy at times, Bree, you can tell that she's like, you can tell this in words. It's not like a movie. You can actually, the author is so good at relaying it that you're able to tell that Bree is scared, but she's being strong for her friend, and she's like taking what's life is throwing at her and not letting it bring her down. So the two focus characters of the book, I feel were really well done. There's also some additional side characters that exist in this book. So there's Richard Holt, and he is the sage on ghosts. He knows all about them, and he eventually comes in and tries to help the two women solve their plight. And he gives the story an excellent academic air, kind of like that character from Poltergeist, or really any story where you have someone who already knows about the ghosts and is able to provide the lore and the background on it. It's a very good introduction, very good addition to the story. There's also the character of Travis. He is Bree's kind of boyfriend, kind of ex-boyfriend. He's not really in the story that much, but what he does by existing is give Bree extra dimension as a character, because while all this stuff for the ghosts is going on, you're able to see Jenny and Bree's dynamic very well, as Jenny in turn, having been comforted and cared for by Bree with all this stuff with the ghosts going on, she in turn is able to comfort Bree back and say like, hey, what's going on with this relationship? What's wrong? What happened? And it really gives the characters an extra dimension, seeing the side romance that just gets alluded to and mentioned briefly every now and then. And why I think this stands out is that all the time I'll read a really short story or a novella, something that isn't full-fledged, and the characters just won't really develop too much. You won't really get to feel who they are as people, and usually I give it a pass because, I mean, you can just give the excuse that there's not enough pages for the characters to really have their development time and for the story to really take off. That's not the case with this book. It does it excellently, where you're getting a scary story with lore and background development, but the characters themselves are also developing as well. You're getting to know them, and since the horror, this is important. You actually care about what happens to them, and that's huge for me. Also, they're not really characters, so to speak, but the ghosts themselves. The author does a good job of giving them little personalities without them having their own dialogue, without getting to see their internal thoughts, just kind of images and impressions that are given by the character Jenny whenever she takes pictures of them or she's getting sensations. You really get to feel of who these ghosts are as people, and you're given just enough detail that you can imagine who they were or what kind of ghost they are, what their story is, and that's really exciting. The other thing that I really liked is that this wasn't just taking place in a single apartment and stuff starts getting increasingly worse and worse in the same setting. No, what happens is that the author takes you to a different variety of, in general, generic locations. They aren't anything special, but she takes these different settings, and by the events that are going on in them, gives the settings like their own unique flavor and their own life. And at the same time, while she's not, I don't want to say wasting time describing these settings, because setting description is important, she does just enough. You're able to create a visual image in your head of what these settings look like without taking paragraphs or pages to just describe the landscape or the setting. So that's another great thing. The settings are really well developed for a short story, for a novella. So that I found that very appealing as well. The author's writing style is pretty decent. I mean, it's nothing amazing. It's not like she's a very prolific author, but she definitely gets the job done, and it doesn't feel like a self-published book where it's kind of, I don't know if you want to call it campy or simplistic. It's that happy medium of she's not like a great author, but she's not someone simple at the same time. There's an in general level of eloquence to the writing. So that's something that's nice as well. So another thing that I appreciated for this book was its depth, so to speak. Its final ending had something that you didn't necessarily see coming. I didn't see it coming at all. But when you think back on the book, you were able to tell how there were little allusions throughout, and almost it was included right from the beginning, that build up to this final end result that occurs at the end of the story. So that gives the book a certain layer of like intricacy, a little bit of a story depth to it. And then another thing, while it doesn't have like a lot of moral depth to it, so to speak, it has just enough for you to appreciate that you're alive and that something like this isn't happening to you at all. So that was something else that was kind of nice to be included. So all in all, I spent $3 on this book, and I feel that for $3, that was a very well spent amount of money. And I highly recommend that, you know, if you have the time, go get Ghost Camera, the book, on Amazon or something. I personally get everything on Kindle. That's why I'm not holding up the book cover for you to see. I'll insert it in the video. But I'd recommend getting this book, giving it a try. I give it 4 stars. I really liked it. I didn't love it. It wasn't just a casual, like it's okay or I liked it. I mean, I really liked this book. Like I said, I read it all in one evening. It gave me chills. So yeah, I highly recommend it.